The gentlelady from Arizona, Ms. Ansari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. Anti-Semitism has undoubtedly been on the rise for years. As we all know, although Jews constitute only 2% of the U.S. population, anti-Semitic attacks account for 15% of all hate crimes and almost 70% of all religion-based hate crimes in the country. In the current climate, almost 50% of Jewish college students report feeling uncomfortable, unwelcome, or unsafe on campus because they are Jewish. That is unacceptable. Particularly on college campuses, we've heard concerns about faculty members using rhetoric that at times crosses the line into anti-Semitism and creates hostile environments for Jewish students. And while we are holding hearings to combat anti-Semitism on campuses, the very office in the Department of Education that works to protect Jewish students, the Office for Civil Rights, has been attacked, undermined, and cut by the Trump administration. This office works to protect individuals based on race, color or national origin, sex, age, religion, and disability. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in addition to the sharp rise in anti-Semitism, data shows a very clear rise in Islamophobia as well, especially in recent months, a rise in anti-Asian hate, persistently high rates of bias-motivated crimes against Black communities, and FBI data also shows prejudice against sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability bias. And just yesterday, the Trump administration and the Trump-appointed Supreme Court affirmed his plan to dismantle the Department of Education and fire nearly 1,400 employees, 1/3 of their workforce. Mr. Nosenchuk, what effect will the decimation of the Department of Education, and especially this Office of Civil Rights, have on efforts to combat college anti-Semitism?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. It is the job of the Office for Civil Rights to enforce civil rights laws and keep students safe. If there aren't the investigators and the resources to do the job, who is going to be going on to these campuses in response to complaints when instances of anti-discrimination occur to protect these students? I'm trying to think of another instance where there's a policy preference that says we need to prioritize this particular policy objective, and now we're going to gut the office charged with the responsibility to do the work.
And since mass layoffs earlier this year, has the pace of investigation and resolution become faster or slower?
My understanding is it's become slower, and that one approach that's been taken is just to dismiss wholesale a whole host of complaints, some unprecedented number within a 3-month period.
So on that note, if you could clarify, do you know how many civil rights cases have been dismissed by the Trump administration and how that may compare to prior administrations?
Well, I do know that there was this about 3,400 that were dismissed within a 3-month period from March through June, as that outpaced any rate of dismissal before. The way in which OCR operated when I worked there is every complaint that was filed that stated claim that which was within the jurisdiction of OCR was opened for investigation. Doesn't mean that it necessarily resulted in a resolution agreement, but it was opened for investigation because the belief was that every student who has a complaint needs to be heard and their complaint examined to determine whether there has been discrimination that rises to the level of harassment or hostile environment under Title VI, and what the university that is accountable for protecting that student's civil rights is doing about it.
Thank you so much. This year, in addition, the Trump administration shuttered 7 out of 12 civil rights enforcement offices, including the offices in New York City and San Francisco, 2 of the regions that are obviously represented on this panel today. Those offices were in the middle of handling over 6,000 cases. Mr. Nosenchuk, what role did these offices play in combating anti-Semitism under your tenure at the Office of Civil Rights?
Thanks for that question. They played a very significant role. The offices that were shuttered were some of the most effective offices within OCR. I don't think, frankly, that that's a coincidence, and it happened that a number of those offices were the ones where a significant majority of the unprecedented number of anti-Semitism-related investigations that we opened were being handled, and there was tremendous expertise. If you added it up, I imagine it would be decades or centuries of expertise, if you added all the years of all the investigators who worked in these offices and really were deeply committed and are now shattered by the fact that they've lost their jobs and seen the office that they were dedicated to be basically eviscerated.
Thank you. This administration has been weaponizing the rise of anti-Semitism in their war against higher education. If they were serious about protecting Jewish students and educators, they would be providing more funding and more staff for the Office of Civil Rights. Thank you.
Thank the gentlelady. Her time has expired, and I recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Onder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all the witnesses for being here today. Chancellor Lyons, the UAW represents